My name is Luke Hawx. I'm a professional wrestler, actor, and stuntman of 25 plus years. I've been in pro wrestling since 1999. Had my first match in Pensacola for the Samoans in 1999. Don't really talk about that too much on podcasts, so it's one of the first ones I ever really mentioned that on, which is pretty cool. You know, because we always talk about your career, how long you've been wrestling, but not where I started at and my first matches were. So yeah, first match was 1999 in Pensacola, Florida, at the same high school as Emmett Smith and Roy Jones Jr. And the Samoans as well. Roman Reigns, he went there. I'm sure you guys are familiar with WWE. Y'all probably watched that product. Yeah. So, I've been pro wrestling since then. You know, had a few breaks early on. I was really a lot smaller when I first started, skinny. Always kind of pushed off to the side and told you're never going to make it. You're never going to be a wrestler because I didn't look like a wrestler. I wasn't intimidating. I didn't have muscles. I didn't have a big, I had a persona and I had a big attitude, like a chip on my shoulder, but I didn't have the persona I needed for wrestling to be the star that I needed to be. So I had to really work on that. And part of working on that was my image, obviously lifting weights, gym, eating healthy, all that stuff. And that's honestly where your uncle and your father came in and changed my life. So those guys are really responsible for a big part of my career and helping me advance in my career because I was telling somebody this earlier that, the difference between your dad and like all my other friends and celebrities and all that stuff in the world is like when I got with anybody else, we hung out, we worked out, we partied, we did whatever. When I got with your dad for the first time, I was friends with your uncle first, but when I got with your dad for the first time, your uncle introduced me to your dad, and your dad brought me up, and we did a podcast, and we did some lifting for a week and stuff. But your dad taught me things. He took the time and he said, "Hey, you have some potential in a lot of ways on outside of what I was doing." He's like, "You like lifting? You could change the way you look and the way you lift and be a lot stronger if you do this, this, and this, or this." And nobody had ever took the time to just tell me little things like that before. It was always just go, 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 or put you in a position because you're already working as an elite level, whatever, whether it's wrestling or film or whatever. They just kind of throw you in the fire and you gotta adapt, whether you know what you're doing or not. So Mark was the first person to really take me under his wing and start really teaching me. And because of that, I was an idiot. I'm just being honest. I didn't have an education, and before going to the gym, I was just working out. So no, I didn't know, and YouTube wasn't big back then. It was just kind of taking off, so I wasn't hip to it yet, but like that changed my career in wrestling because obviously the bigger I got, the stronger I got, the more intimidating I got. And then that also changed my career in film because I was a stuntman. And now the bigger and more intimidating I got, guess what happened? I got bigger roles right now. Oh, well, you're so big and jacked, you line up as a perfect bad guy against a guy like The Rock or whoever, Sylvester Stallone or what, Jason Statham, whatever. My arms are huge, you can go right on side of them. And you know what I mean? It just looks so it looks better if they beat up a bigger guy. Yeah. It doesn't look better if they're kicking the ass of a smaller guy, right? Yeah. So if I was that size, I probably wouldn't have got them. I definitely wouldn't have got the movie roles. So like all that had a big impact in changing my career and advancing it, and for obviously the better. But going back to what you said, like when in the beginning asked me what I do and explain who I am, it all goes back to that. Like I was able to do all those things and adapt, because of the wrestling, right? I'm a wrestler first and foremost. Mm-hmm. But in order to be a successful pro wrestler, you have to have physical fitness. So, and I broke off in the film from wrestling, but because I excelled in physical fitness, then it helped me excel not only in just my wrestling and my film. So I was able to transition one career into two other careers, and I would honestly make a living doing all three things. So long story, long answer, but if you go back and trace it down, that's what it all goes back to. And now, like I said, I'm fortunate to make a living in film as an actor and stuntman, coordinator, wrestling and fitness, doing multiple things. So And I love all three of those things. How often do you get to do a job where to take a lot of things that you like and get paid from? Not really often, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm lucky. Sorry, long answer.
No, you're good. I mean, so you started with wrestling, and then that's how you got into, I guess, being a stunt double, and then into acting as well. Like, is that it was wrestling, stunts, acting?
I had a show on MTV in 2005, 2006 called Wrestling Society X. Only ran for one season. And then they cut it because they were transitioning over into like the 16 and pregnant phase. They were fading out all like the jackass stuff because they were getting a lot of lawsuits and stuff. And like the 16-year-old girl stuff was really becoming popular, Jersey Shore, all that stuff. So they were starting to transition into that stage of life for MTV. But during that process, while we were shooting that show, there was a wrestler called named Vampiro, excuse me. He was shooting an independent film in Mexico. And so they offered me an opportunity to be in that film. I thought it was all BS at first, because you know how it is. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, I'll put you in my film. And I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy, you're going to put me in your film, And then a couple months later, I got the call for the film, went down Mexico, shot it, made $1,000 a day. Now, this is 2006 now, 2006, 2007. So I was making $1,000 a day back then. And this is for the first time because I was also working a regular job then. I got to go back up a little bit. I was still wrestling and I was still working, like trying to make a name for myself. So I'm working a regular job, making about $500 a week, working 40 to 50 hours a week, plus some part-time work as well. But see, I get this movie opportunity and then I go, oh, crap. I can make $1,000 a day doing something? I'm like, that's more than I make in 2 weeks at my job, like killing myself. So I had to figure out, but I thought in my brain, I thought you had to be like in Hollywood to do movies. I thought you had to be born in the movies. You had to go to all this acting school and you do, you do. There's obviously a system to get in entertainment, and I just didn't think a dumbass like me could get into it. And I'm just being honest. I just didn't have an education. I grew up in a boys' home, so I didn't have a family environment. I didn't speak properly back then. I didn't talk anywhere near as clear as, and not that I talk much clearer now, but I didn't talk, I was a real different person, and I was real hood because I grew up in a hood environment. And I had to learn and take classes on how to act and how to speak to people properly and how to dress properly and how to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye and when you speak to them and do all these proper things that, was very odd because I was a kid when I, a teenager when I was going through that stuff. So I was already in a different mindset. Like I already grew into, somebody had already influenced me to be what I was. So like, I didn't think, like I said, taking that kid from the ghetto and the hood could ever be like a Hollywood star. Like in my heart, I wanted to be one. But I didn't look like those guys, I didn't dress like them. I didn't have money. I didn't talk like them. I sounded like a freaking idiot compared to any of those people. So, and I was always critical of myself on that stuff because, I had to look and go, okay, I'm missing this, this, and this. And I had to work on those things. And I had to learn though, like go back to your dad and your uncle. Those are people who taught me work ethics. I didn't have someone teach me work ethics prior. No one went, hey, if you do this, this, and this, and you keep trying, you build up to these things, I just didn't have that concept. It was just go, 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 go. Even if they say no, go, go, go. I didn't have the concept of a program, so to speak. So when I started learning things like programming and how to take care of yourself, and I realized that kind of went with everything in life. And I was able to transition those thoughts into everything I was doing. Like you put your right foot in front of the left one, right, to move forward. We just keep going. So if you keep going on that same path, yeah, you're gonna mess up. But if you keep going, you're gonna get to where you want to go. You're gonna make mistakes along the way, but then you figure out what you did wrong, and most people quit. You guys are in film right now, you're doing podcasts and everything else, like this is entertainment.
Yeah.
So your first podcast, it's probably terrible compared to where you guys are at. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, as you go on,
it was pretty bad.
Yeah, and you advance though, right? You learn. You didn't go, oh man, this sucks. I'm quitting. I'm not doing this no more. No, you go, okay, well, I can fix this. I can fix this, and that's what I had to do with the film world.
Yeah.
The first movie I did, look, I went in. You got to think. I did it in 2006 or 2007, so I was already wrestling for 6 or 7 years, and I've already been on television, and I was a kid still, but in my mind, I thought I had a lot of experience because I was on television, and I was performing in front of all these big live crowds, anywhere from 3 people to, 10, 20,000 people sometimes, depending on where you go and perform, like Mexico's big crowds, right? So in my brain, I thought I can do whatever the film needed. So I was very confident when I went and filmed my first film. And then when I watched it back on playback, I was like, I'm terrible. I look terrible. And but that's how I felt. And I seen it, and I honestly assessed myself, and I was like, I look terrible. And most people would just be like, I'm so excited I'm in a film. Check me out in this film. I'm like, I don't want nobody to see this, bro. I look bad. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I got to learn what I'm doing. Then I learned there was a stunt school. Long story short, I learned there was a stunt school in Louisiana. I'm cutting a big part of the story out because it's long. But I found out there was a stunt school in Louisiana. I went to stunt school. Then I went there for 2 years before I got another opportunity. I kept getting promises, and it was long and hard and grueling. But I wanted to do it. So, and then in 2009, I got my SAG card. Are you familiar with Rob Van Dam?
A little bit, yeah.
RVD. So he filmed his first film, and it was shot in Louisiana, and the coordinator was my trainer. So he's like, oh, I'm shooting this wrestling movie with him and Batista. We're going to get you your SAG card on this film. So, and Rob and them knew me, and Batista and them knew me. So we were, buddies. So I got to go hang with my boys and shoot that and have some fun. And from there on, then I just got my SAG card, and I just started working my way up the ranks. And then other films came along as I was working my way up the ranks, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, in this scene, you're going to walk up to this guy and do this. Okay, that's a little stale, the first shot. Can you just say something to the guy? So then, how you would improv? So then I just have to improv something. And then they go, oh, well, he's good with dialogue. So, and then all of a sudden now they're trusting me with dialogue, and I go from just a stunt guy to an actor. And now I'm doing a lot of stunt acting. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's also transitioning and helping me in the wrestling world, because the more my face is seen on film, obviously the more worth my wrestling becomes, right? Because your fan base grows, all that stuff. And then, it just kept growing and growing. And you kept pushing, and at one point, I could have definitely quit wrestling and transferred just straight to film and made a lot more money, but I loved wrestling too much to leave it. And I put, 20 plus years in wrestling, my heart was in it. I couldn't, and I wasn't going to leave my team. I knew if I left Wildcat Sports and would have had everything in New Orleans, everything I built, because I built a promotion, the school, all this during this time, and it grew as my film career was growing. But film took off compared to wrestling. Wrestling was okay, and I made some money and made a name, but in film, I became a player. Mm-hmm. So it's most people would just go, they would quit what they're not super excelling at, or not making a great living. I was barely getting by wrestling, but I was crushing it in film.
Yeah.
Crushing it, like everything. But I was I love wrestling. So I just put so much more back into wrestling, and what I did was I started taking the stuff from film and transitioning into wrestling, and transitioning stuff in wrestling into film. I started getting all my team into film and training you to be a stunt guy and you to be a stunt guy, because there was a need for it. It wasn't oh, you're just my friend, I'm going to help you out. I had all these guys that were training under me. They were all hungry. They were all looking for opportunity. They were all in the same boat I was in, as independent wrestlers, knowing that wrestling's a hard business to make a living. And all of a sudden, I had kicked down these doors over here in the entertainment industry outside of wrestling, which typically you need a platform to do that, like a WWE or something, right? Mm-hmm. And they got to program you into that. Well, I had did all this on my own, all while building my own wrestling school, wrestling promotion, and my team up. And just like guys like you were part of the team here, I had guys that were just from day one, we were all in. So, and everybody that was loyal and stuck to it, they all got bigger opportunities like Iron Claw and Heels and in various TV shows like Jay Spade. One of my guys is a stunt guy in the movie Sinners right now, which is one of the biggest movie. It's the biggest movie that came out, I don't know in how many years, but like it's killing it right now.
Yeah.
In film, he's a great wrestler, but film changed his life. He's in so many, and the cool thing about it is I'm from Louisiana, New Orleans, a lot smaller than the network you guys got out here. So we don't have as much access to everything you guys got. But the cool thing about that is I took all these little hometown boys that went to all these little local high schools and stuff that would have never had a chance to make it out. And all of a sudden now they're on a worldwide entertainment scene. And they're breaking barriers and they're influencing, other kids from those neighborhoods to do those things that, who grew up with similar upbringings and misfortunes that never thought they could get out and do something are now going, okay, well, this guy went to the same school I went to. So if he can be a star and I could talk to him, I could be a star, So, and I'm seeing these transitions. I'm watching kids. The cool thing is I'm 44 now. So I've been through all this. So, like, I'm watching kids. I watched you grow up, basically. I've known you since you were probably about 10. So, I get to see all these things. But the same, like, these kids that I watched my kid go to school with or kids that came to my shows when they were little and grew up. And then they graduated high school, went to college, wrestled. And now then they transitioned into Wildcat and then came and started training. And now they're professional wrestlers. Like, my first show was with Wildcat. I came and I seen you wrestle this guy, and it changed my life. And now I'm training. So that's the stuff, like, I'm so thankful I never gave up on wrestling for, because of wrestling, it changed my life. It brought those opportunities, and now we're doing it for others as well. I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much.
No, you're good. This is good.
Yeah, it's great.
You can cut me off at any time, too. If I give y'all too long answers, tell me shut the hell up and just,
I mean, it's like a podcast. Like, it's like the whole point is to have a little conversation, You want to go?
No, go for it.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, like, do you think that wrestling really helped with the transition to stunt work? Because I think that they're probably pretty similar, right?
Yeah, 100%. Because wrestling's hard on your body and not very forgiving, and you it's a thankless job, and honestly, it is. Outside of like fans telling you on the internet how great you are, which doesn't really matter, it's a thankless job. So you put your body through all this, and it toughens it up, but like the same with stunts. And the cool thing about stunts is not cool, but the cool thing now about stunts is when I first broke into stunts, stuntmen got no glory. Basically just like almost like wrestlers. Because stuntmen always had to hide their face, and the actors got all the credit, even though it was somebody else doing the job typically, right? And it was very, very taboo to like take credit for a star or try and be a star as a stuntman. But since I was already somewhat a star in wrestling and I had a persona and I was on camera and I kind of broke that wall, and I got some credit where guys were like, oh, well, that's just Luke. He's a wrestler. He's this, he's that. Put him front and center, and so that they went together like that. It helped me there. It helped me with that transition, but like it also helped with the toughness of the body, obviously, because the bad thing is like wrestling, you train, you go wrestle a 5, 10, 20-minute match, 30-minute match sometimes. Stunts, the only difference, like, you and I shoot a scene, I do the stunt, all right, cut. They might take 10, 15 minutes setting up the next shot, and then your body gets cold again, and then you got to go right back into it and attack the ground and hit the ground like you did the first time. Where, and it hurts like that's way worse, because wrestling, like I said, you can go out there and you can go bam, 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 and get it done. 20 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
Where film, you might shoot that same scene all day long or for a couple days straight and have to do that same thing 200 times with breaks in between. So, they're similar, but they definitely complement each other in a lot of ways, but there's also a lot of different things that or unique differences in each one that would, you can't say one's harder than the other, because they have their differences that both make it difficult.
Is there one that sticks out in your mind as like the hardest stunt that you've ever done?
Oh man, I did a couple. Yeah, of course. So I tell you one that was real brutal. I was shooting this low budget sci-fi movie in probably 2013, 14, something like that. And we were in the swamps in the winter of Louisiana. And that's 30 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So I had to get knocked out this boat, and then this giant dinosaur crocodile is going to come eat me and swallow me whole, right? So the thing has to knock the boat over. I had to dive into the water, tread the water, help, all that stuff, and then eventually just go down. They're going to CGI the croc in. Well, it was so effing cold out there. I don't know if this is a PG podcast or not, but it was cold. It was freezing.
It was fucking cold.
It was fucking cold. There you go. And so, man, it was fucking freezing. So anyway, I got what do you call it? Scuba gear on, but it's the bottom of the legs are exposed. So all this is over. My feet are exposed and my hands are exposed. So I get tossed in the water, do the thing, do the whole scene, and they yell, "Cut!" Okay, cool. Well, within that amount of time, my whole body's going numb. I can't feel anything. Now it's about 3 minutes in the water, and I'm freezing, and it's just everything's starting to. It was rough, and it's cold outside. And the director goes, "All right, just tread water for a minute. We're gonna reset." I'm like, "Get me the fuck out of here!" I had to get out, and like everything. I was losing it. So that was difficult because of the condition.
Sure.
Now I've also been in the opposite conditions that don't sound too hard, but they are. We shot Green Lantern, and we're on a blacktop airport runway for 8 hours in 100-degree weather, and I'm wearing thick mechanic overalls, and I gotta run back and forth to this plane crash all day, sweating. You take break, that is brutal. You know what I mean? I was probably 220 when I started, and I was probably 200 when I finished the scene. I'm serious. I lost probably 20 pounds in the process of sweating so much over a week of filming that, and just completely dehydrated, depleted, everything. So it's a different, now I've been in the other side of things where you get the shit knocked out of you too. So you got to deal with these extreme weather conditions that are hard on your body and perform, no matter what the scene calls for. And then there's also the impactful scenes, right? Like getting yanked down a flight of steps in Homefront. I'm on a wire, and I'll send you the video if y'all want to add it into the clip. I'll send you the home version of it, and then you can play the film version of it as well. But you can see the iPhone version, and you can see I'm on a wire, and I go up the steps, and I kick the door, and as soon as I do, Statham blasts me with a shotgun. Well, they yank me on the wire, and I go backwards down the steps. I got no, in the steps, initially I'm about here to you. So when they yank me, it's a big yank, hit the ground, and then down the steps.
Yeah, and you have to actually fall down.
Oh, yeah, 100% you do. But it's a crazy gig, and it's a death-defying, stunt. You can definitely get killed. I've lost a lot of friends in the stunt business, and that's something that has been difficult over the years, especially as I get older, because as we talk about, I don't remember if we were talking about this on the podcast earlier, if we were talking about this before we went on air, but you guys and I were talking about how I was saying young guys need a chance to do dumb things to, be boys and test the waters, but also not take it too far, right? But right. Sometimes you do. It's just what we do. Sometimes you got to take it too far to go, that was too much. So, I tested the waters a lot. But here's the thing, is I lost so many friends who were so much smarter than me or more talented than me. And they died from simple things, simple mistakes, or, just it should have never happened. So I look back and I know that, I'm a believer in God, and I think that, I was here for, I don't know what that reason is, but as a 44-year-old man with all this experience now and all these things I've got the opportunity to do, I look back and I just know there's a purpose, because it breaks my heart. I want to cry, man. It's hard because I lost so many good people that were so talented and so good, and they shouldn't have, you know what I mean? They should be here.
Yeah.
But for some reason I am, and they're not. And, you know, that's hard. Just because I'm honest. Like, I know, like, certain people they had so much more potential than me, or so much more talent, or, like I said, way smarter. But for some reason, I was the one that made it, you know? So that's
wild to think about.
It's wild to think. It's wild to think about. Yeah, it's, you know, just when you live through it. When you're young, you don't think about it because you're just living and you're going through and you're doing whatever, and you got to do whatever to survive, and, you know, you're taking chances like these fighters, right? You grew up as a fighter. A lot of these fighters, they come from nothing. It's rarely some freaking rich kid who grew up with everything who's like, yeah, bro, I want to get into MMA, you know, I want to go be a UFC fighter. It's usually these kids from the dirt who grew up fighting, and they're like, I know I can kick ass, so fighting's my way out. And I see it. I work with some of the local fights at home, and I see some of these, you know, struggling youths entering fights every month or every other month just to try and get a payday, to try and get some kind of fame, to try and they're getting their clocks clean, and they're getting injured, but you can't tell them nothing. They're getting concussions, and they're going to keep, but it's all they got. It's their only way out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like me. What I was doing, wrestling and film, was my only way out. So I understand it. But as a 44-year-old man, now I'm also looking back and going, hey, you know, just like the guys do y'all, somebody did me. Don't do this, you don't do that, watch this, you know, this is dangerous. Like, you're always telling them what to watch out for, how to be careful, or you know, just kind of being that mentor, that old guy trying to help. And the youth are like, yeah, fuck y'all, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's really, you know, crazy. I think like wrestling and all those, like pro wrestling especially, they're very like just brutal businesses, you know. A lot of people, do you think like a lot of people who have like a rough time or a rough like childhood are drawn to some more of those like pro wrestling kind of things? Because like a lot of people just, they don't really make it out, you know. Like my uncle Mike, you know, Mad Dog, like, you know, he didn't make it, you know. And like he
did make it.
Well, I know,
but he didn't make it in his mind. Yeah,
right.
But the same thing.
Right.
Those things, see, the same things that your family was looking for, and they, you know, like they did it. Yeah. You know, all three of them. All three of them. They did it.
Yeah.
And it pushed so many others to do it. So I think it's relatable, and there's a lot of things that people can relate to, especially with wrestling, with the storylines. You know, like there's always a good guy, there's always a bad guy, but not everybody watches wrestling. So and not everybody's a wrestling fan, and you guys know if you don't like wrestling, typically people crap on it, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wrestling's stupid, it's fake, it's this and that. If you're not a wrestling fan, I'm trying to get you to watch wrestling, you're gonna be like, I don't want to watch this. I'm not gonna really pay attention to this. But if it's a movie, all of a sudden now they're more willing to look at something because it's, you know, it's like, okay, it's okay for me to suspend disbelief in this area, but it's not okay for me to suspend disbelief in this area, which is kind of weird, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've been asked this a ton of times, and I don't know if you would break in any NDAs or something if you give the answer, but how fake is wrestling?
Well, it's not fake, it's fixed.
Sure. Okay.
It's predetermined.
Let me rephrase that. So obviously the stunts and all the physicality you guys do are absolutely real.
Right.
The winners of the matches are more or less determined before you go in.
Usually. Now, there's always instances where something goes wrong, somebody gets hurt, somebody doesn't kick out. Like there's something, there's things that happen. I've been involved in several matches where it didn't always go how it was supposed to go.
Sure.
So that's just part of it, and then it's your job as the performer to improvise and turn it into whatever you need it to be. You know, not everybody can do that though. So and it takes a lot of experience and a lot of comfortability to just know it's like improv, right? If you guys and we're just going off the cuff, but guys can't do that in wrestling nowadays. If you watch wrestling, it's a lot of acrobats and it's more like Cirque du Soleil, certain, you know, and I'm not saying it's not good, it's not talented. I'm just saying it's not the same emotional investment.
Right.
Like we're talking about emotional investment. Wrestling doesn't really have much emotional investment anymore. It's more of a show now, and they kind of come out and tell you it's a show, especially like WWE.
Right.
Where like I was drawn to wrestling because I thought it was real. And then I learned it wasn't real, and then I thought ECW was real. But the way I grew up, I could relate to ECW. But I wanted to be big stars like the Ultimate Warrior and be underneath the lights and have all the muscles and be shiny, because that wasn't who I was. You know, that wasn't anybody I was around. Everybody I was around was smoking cigarettes, drinking, doing dope. You know, they look like shit. You know, they missing teeth. I'm just being honest.
Right.
I didn't have someone to look like. So when I seen those guys, I was like, that's what I want to be. I don't want to be like these people and live this life.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard people describe pro wrestling lifestyle kind of like a rock star lifestyle in a lot of ways, like just the parties and the like drugs and the like addictions and
the
stuff,
cheating,
you know?
the women,
yeah.
the partying, the drugs, you know. And the thing is, I never got into that stuff. I got it. Women. That's about it. You know what I mean? Like I was women. No, I love women. But it was. You know, women was my thing. I didn't get into drugs. I didn't want to do drugs because, you know, the family I came from, the alcohol, all that stuff. So I started drinking a little bit in my 30s, but, you know, it wasn't crazy. And, I just didn't do drugs. So everybody, I hung out with everybody. I was cool with everybody, but I didn't do what everybody else did. The cool thing was for me was now I was starting to get attention from girls, where girls didn't want to talk to me before because I was poor. I was trash. You know what I mean? Like my clothes were holy. Like I didn't have a pot to piss in. So like, you know, I was the dirty white boy. Nobody, you know, so like now all of a sudden I was starting to get, oh, he's cute. Oh, you know, and girl, like, so naturally I ate that up. Right.
Yeah.
Like, that was the only thing I had trouble with. So obviously relationships, like I cheated a lot, and I talk about it openly. So, you know, like for the longest time, like if a girl says, I couldn't tell a girl no, you know, it's like if a girl offered, I was going to go with her. Cause, it was I just wasn't used to, you know, females being like that with me. So then it became where like just, they all wanted you and you take advantage of it. But
you think that's some kind of like, for lack of a better word, overcompensating for not getting that.
Good, yeah, 100%. And but you got to learn, you know, too much is a bad. Too much of anything is a bad thing. So like, you know, I ruined relationships over it, you know. But the thing was, I was very open. I wasn't hiding. Outside of like lying to my girlfriend and saying I'm not cheating, I wasn't hiding anything. I wasn't doing anything like quote unquote, you know, wrong other than. Cheating's wrong, but I wasn't, you know, I mean, I wasn't taking advantage of anybody. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. It's like me and you go out. I'm in town. You hit me up. Oh, I see you in town. You want to go out tonight? Sure. Yeah, I'll go meet you out tonight. You know, and then I would take a picture with you and post it and do everything I got. And then I'd just tell my lady, nah, I didn't do nothing with her. You know what I mean? Like, but it was just, they knew better. So then it did eventually, it bit me in the ass, and, you know, you get caught a couple times. And like, I didn't really care because like I said, I was kind of open about it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm seeing this girl, and I'm seeing this girl, and I'm seeing this girl. Like, and then I would just start telling them, you know, like, cause it was like, why hide it? Why lie about it? Why? It's just going to cause.
They're going to find out about it.
They're going to find out about it anyway. And, but, you know, that stuff stopped eventually as I got older because like, you got tired of dealing, like it wasn't important anymore. Like I remember when I was young and it was like all about just chasing girls because you knew it was going to be a good time. And then I had to go, okay, well, what's more important, chasing girls or having a successful career and taking care of myself? What's more important tonight? Making sure I eat the right dinner and nutrition and get in bed in time and get up and go to the gym? Or should I be going out tonight and drinking and meeting somebody just to go have a good time, that's, not going to lead to anything successful down the line. It's just temporary BS happiness.
Do you think the phrase, like the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater, is
yes and
applicable?
No? Yes and no. I mean, it don't have to be. I don't think I'll do it again, and like I tell my wife, no, but the thing is, it's different, because me and my wife are super cool. We're best friends. Talk about everything. So I always say, oh, why didn't we get together sooner? She always says, because you would have fucked everything up, because you would have cheated on me, like, you know what I mean? And because she knew me the whole time. I would tell her, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm out with this girl, and like we were friends. So eventually she was like, yo, the fuck are you doing, man? Why are you always out with these random girls? And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, yeah. I don't have a good girl at home. Like, I'm good to these girls, but you can't help. Like I also had girlfriends I was good to. It wasn't all just cheating, but I'm just saying, like, you don't control every situation. So like, you don't pick what happens to you, and sometimes you mess up in a relationship, and you got to have accountability for that. But like I was saying with her, it's like, she taught me. It's similar to like how your dad and them taught me. She came in and she taught me. She was like, hey, you let these people mistreat you, and that's why you go do these things. Because you hang out with a bunch of people who mistreat you. So, and they only have one thing to offer you, and that's sex. So what you need is, you never had someone properly love you. You never had someone take care of you. You never had someone treat you like you never had an equal. And I was like, nah, I never had any of that. So like, she had to teach me a lot of things, and she had to treat me different than somebody else was. But we had also built a friendship. Now, prior to this, any girlfriend I ever had, it was usually like, we meet, we hook up. Now all of a sudden you my girlfriend. I don't even barely know you. I don't know nothing about you. We ain't spend no time getting to know each other. It was just sex. So, and as I got older, like I am, what's the word? I realized how important it is to have an actual relationship and friendship and bond. And that's what me and her had before any of this got together. So when we got together, I didn't want that other life. Like, that other life was already behind me. So when we started, actually dating, and, I just didn't want it. And then she asks me, she always says, not always says, but sometimes she's like, oh, yo, why you think you don't cheat on me, but you cheated on everybody else? And I tell her, it's because I don't put myself in those situations anymore. And well, if you did, you would cheat on me? I don't know. So like, I'm not gonna put myself in that situation. Like, I'm smart enough to I'm not going to the club and looking for a bunch of girls. I'm not saying like, if a girl came to me right now, I couldn't turn it down. That's easy. But I'm saying, I'm not putting myself into a situation like, if you're a recovering drug addict, you don't go hang out with a bunch of other drug addicts. Right. You hang out with people who are clean and people who are trying to improve their lives, So like, that's just the point of it. It's just like, I'm smart enough now as a 44-year-old man to know what to do and what not to do. Yeah. Like when I was young, I could go out there and who cares if I do it, and now I'm just like, no. If I go there, I know I might hook up with somebody. Well, I know girls are going to show me attention, so I'm not going to put myself in that situation to be, like I said, not saying I can't be professional and be in those settings, and because I have to be, but I just don't voluntarily do it. There's a difference.
Yeah. Kind of going back to film for a second. Do you have what are some of your biggest credits that you have?
Ooh. I mean, shit.
Flex on us for a second.
Well, everybody knows Fast and Furious and Logan, Fate of the Furious. That's like the two, and then obviously Young Rock, because of, that's primetime television. It doesn't get any bigger than, being on primetime television comedy on Tuesday nights on, primetime TV. So, Homefront, let's see, man, there's hundreds, legit, I'm lucky. So,
right.
Homefront was a big break for me. That was the first job I had. It was like a long-term job where I worked for a couple months, and like I said, I got the opportunity to do a big stunt, which was at Stairfall. That was my first major stunt, where a stunt coordinator was like, yo, I got a gag for you. And I was like, oh my God, really? But here's the thing. You guys will love this. So when I'm doing that, stunt guys are assholes, just like me. You know, like they're fun. They're just funny. You know what I mean? They're not really assholes. We like to have a good time typically. So all the veteran stunt guys were messing with me. So once I got this gig, I never did something like that before. So the veteran stunt guys would come up to me and they go, "Hey man, I wouldn't do that gig if I was you. That's too dangerous." And then I was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, bro, you could really hurt yourself. You could die." And I'm thinking, "Oh shit," you know, they putting a little like there. So then I go over to the coordinator. I say, "Hey, you think I'll be all right doing this job?" You know, at first I wasn't no problem with, but then once they start getting in your head, he's like, "Man, they just fucking with you. Don't you know? Just." But it is dangerous. But like I said, it was cool because you know, it was a major gig and it was a major risk. And they trusted me to take that risk. So that's why home front is important. You know, not the biggest blockbuster, but like I made a good bit of money. I did a major stunt. I made some, you know, lifelong friends. Logan was career changing. When that scene came out with his claws in my head, you know, I was the first guy he stabbed in the head on film. Every film before that was PG-13, no blood, body shots. So when we filmed that, you know, and the trailer comes out and the main picture is just me with, you know, with his claws going through my head, it broke the internet. And it you know, and obviously like it did wonders for me, right? Like it put me on the map. And then you did something iconic, and everybody wants to do something iconic. And I didn't know I was doing something iconic when I shot it. You know, I was just working. I was going to work and I was doing a job.
Just
and
another
I had
guy
fun.
getting stabbed.
Yeah. Just another guy getting stabbed, bro. Just another guy getting stabbed. And not realizing the position. Because they don't tell you, oh, well, you're going to be the first guy he stabs in the head and we ever see on film happen to. And you know what I mean? Like and it just happened. And you're like, oh my God. All my hard work, this, that. And then as soon as that happens, you go, oh shit, what's next? you can't even really enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how many times you've died on screen?
Oh, no. Too many. I say I make a living dying.
Yeah.
That's how. There's a movie with Clint Eastwood called Outlaw Josie Wales. And a bounty hunter's coming to get Outlaw Josie Wales, who's Clint Eastwood. And when he's coming to hunt him down and Clint catches him first, and he asks him for mercy. The bounty hunter asks Clint for mercy, and he goes, "I'm just trying to make a living, mister." And Clint looks at him and goes, "Dying ain't much of a living, boy." So,
yeah.
That's why I took that from. I was like, yeah, I make a living dying.
Yeah.
So I love that clip from Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any specific things that so obviously with stunt work, you've learned things like how to fall safely. If somebody was just starting out, just trying to get into it, maybe they have a little bit of a gym background, maybe a little bit of a like a athlete's background, how long do you think it would take for them from like, okay, I want to be a stuntman, to getting competent at these skills that stuntmen have to do?
That's each person. It's just like wrestling school. So like there's a system, right? But it doesn't, your body, and you guys are familiar with powerlifting as well. There's usually a system to build the strength, right? But not everybody's going to progress the same from a system. Your elbow might go out, whatever. And that's the same like wrestling. The average person might be wrestling in 3 months of training, but 3 months training, you might be still stuck on the first course.
Yeah.
Everything's per individual. The good thing is now there's a lot of places you can go. There's stunt schools throughout the nation you can get set up in. When I was breaking it wasn't like that. It was like you had to know somebody and you had to get brought into the business. I got brought into the business. So, I had to earn my way into the business, but I got selected. Like when I went to stunt school, I went to an open tryout that had 20-something people at it, and I was the only guy they kept. So, like, that was the only guy they kept.
What'd you have to do at the tryout?
To be honest, I don't even remember. It was just so long ago. It was like 2006. So 20 years ago. But I mean, it was just basic stuff. Teach you how to film, fight, see if you're coachable, see how you take direction, see how athletic you are. Oh, let's bring out this mat. We're gonna do some high falls off this ladder and see how your body control is. Blah blah blah. And and the average person that shows up, never freaking did anything, or they did like minimal stuff. So where I was a death-defying wrestler, so I had balls.
Yeah.
So I would do whatever it took, where everybody else was like, they're kind of scared and they're timid, but I'm also used to getting in front of a live crowd and just going 100%, where nobody else is typically used to performing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, it could take, like I said, it could take a range, but the good news is now there's stunt schools spread out through the nation. There's also stunt schools for different things. Like if you wanted to be a stunt driver, there's excellent schools like on the East Coast and West Coast and all these different advanced classes you can take to go learn how to drive. And I mean, drive anything and do anything in a car. And most people don't know that. But it's gonna cost a nice chunk of money. But if you want to learn how to be a phenomenal driver, why wouldn't you go invest, 10, 20 grand in some schooling and go to take some courses in driving?
Yeah.
Right? But that, like, you guys think, most people don't know that, right? But you can do that. So there's usually some kind of school nowadays for almost anything you want to do. You guys could probably open up a school for podcasting and teach motherfuckers how to podcast.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I don't know about that one, but
a little plastic table and some.
That's it. We
a
make do.
black tablecloth. Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We make do, baby.
Professional.
Yeah. There's been a thing with the longest time with film where, and we touched about this a little bit earlier, where for the most part the people who get the credit for movies are directors, actors. That's about it. I've noticed that that's changing a lot now. Specifically with stunt coordination. I don't know if you remember the last Oscars, the one they held for 2024. They had like a whole bit about stunt men and women and stunt coordinators. I guess I don't really know. I'm going with this. Like, I guess how does it make you feel that the stunt people are getting the recognition that they deserve?
I think it's great to get recognition, but I think it's far too late because you're now. If we go back to this podcast, we just talked about my stunt with on that wire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big gags are being taken away. So a lot of the big gags aren't really. I'm not saying they don't do big gags that are death defying no more, but they're far and few between. Because everything's so protected now, CGI, digital, they don't have to take a risk. So they'll do things in post-production instead of risking somebody. So, so now the stunt industry is going to die off with AI and everything. I'm not saying it's going to completely die. It may, I don't know. The business is changing. A lot of my guys are struggling now. A lot of them are out of work. A lot of them are losing their homes, they don't have careers anymore because the industry has changed since the strike. So I went on a little ramp. I'm sorry.
No,
what was your question?
The
credit.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's a little bit too late. Because like I said, the industry's getting killed off, and like these guys are losing their homes, and I just don't think that. I don't think that stunts are going to be impactful in 5 to 10 years, because there's going to be no need for it. Everything, like, you don't. The average person watching a film at home doesn't give a shit if they see a human on screen dying compared to a AI. If they can't tell, they're not going to care.
Yeah.
So, but it's just going to impact those people's jobs. So I don't think, like I said, I think it's too late, because I would bet in 10 years there's just not going to be much need for stunts.
Yeah, I mean, maybe at least for like the higher budget films, because maybe that'll get pushed down to like indie films, because I don't think an indie film, like Owen and I primarily do indie films. We can't afford to like hire like a studio to do CGI for us,
Right, but just think about it. As we get more advanced, you're going to be able to, because look at everything you can do now from your phone with editing and all the programs with AI. So in 10 years, you're going to be able to make what you want. So think how easy it is to make our own projects now. But that's why we do that. And we're still inventors and we're still creators, and you still have ambition and passion. And that's why you guys are doing these things. And you're going to stay ahead of the game, and you're going to do more, because obviously as things get easy, more people do them. And you're going to figure out how to do things better. I'm going to figure out how to do things better and how to transition into something else, hopefully, or grow our careers. But, but for most industries are just going to get oversaturated because things are going to be too easy. But yeah, you'll be able to do that, I think, in, 5 years. I don't see it going past 5 years without you being, everything's done on this, dude. I film you now. We can make anything on CapCut right now.
Yeah, and even like Tom Cruise, this was like his last Mission Impossible too. Like the one that just came
and see,
out.
I worked with him, and so I did Jack Reacher 2. So I did a couple scenes in that, and we did some nasty stuff on that. It was cool. And Tom does his own stunts, like he is a beast. So he's a beast. Like he does some death-defying, but he has that pull to where he could too. A lot of studios ain't gonna let the main actor do their own stunts.
Like, you fucking idiot.
Well, no, it's not, it's that. But is it if I got a $200 million production and it's based around you, and you get hurt doing a stunt, that whole production shut down, and it becomes it's more money.
Yeah, you just burn half of the budget immediately.
Yeah. Right. So why would I risk my main star? They're not gonna do it.
It's interesting too because Tom Cruise is in a unique position where he'll probably turn down a movie if they don't let him do a certain stunt.
Yeah. Well, he only does what he wants to do.
Exactly.
And he produces all his own stuff.
Yeah.
I got a call from him and his people, not him personally because I work with him, but I got a call from his people on Heels. So Heels is my favorite show, by the way. We'll go back to that question before. Heels is my favorite project because it involves all three: wrestling, fitness, and film. And like I got to do it, and I got to have my people with me and my family with me and my boys. Like both my sons were on the show, all my guys. Like it was just blessings on blessings, and it was a good crew. It was a great crew. The staff was phenomenal. So, shit, I forgot what I was saying because I went on.
You're just talking about Heels a little bit.
Yeah, but I was telling. Why was I telling you about Heels?
Tom Cruise.
Oh, Tom Cruise. Yeah. So Tom, his people called me, while I was shooting Heels season 1, and I was about 3 months in, and they called me because they were working on the SpaceX project with Elon Musk and film and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
I heard about that.
Yeah, and
Vaguely,
they wanted me to come train. They wanted me to play a role and also train one of the actors in some hand-to-hand combat. And the producer, director, who's massive, who called me, he wanted me to quit Heels and come work for them. And I wasn't going to do that, because it was just like I already had. First off, I gave my word and my commitment to this project, and it was like everything I loved in one project. But I had my team there, had everything, and they were like, who you're turning down, right? They're like, and I'm like, yeah, but they knew, like, but I'm glad I did because that never even came out. Like, there's nothing. I don't even know what's going on with that now. If it got shot, if it got postponed, or
right.
And that was 2020, so it's 2025 now. That call was in 2020. So here we are 5 years later, and nothing.
Yeah, I remember hearing that headline a while ago. It was like, Tom Cruise to team up with Elon Musk to shoot a movie like practically in space, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Now look, it might still be happening. Who knows?
Right.
Or I mean, projects take long time sometimes to do, and I mean,
that's true, yeah.
And if you are really shooting something in space, at the time, one of the reasons they called me because they were going to shoot some stuff at NASA in Louisiana, and that's where I was going to do some of the training at. So I don't know if that ever happened or not, like I said, but that's part of the reason why they called me, because I'm a Louisiana boy, and so I knew they were shooting some at NASA, but who knows? I mean, if you're going up to space to shoot,
it's crazy.
Hey, I mean, I'm down now.
Right.
I'll go to space and shoot. What's the rate on that?
Yeah.
You get a travel budget. What's going on? Because what's my per diem? There's no restaurants up there.
Yeah, well, how long you'd have to train for that too?
Well, that's the thing. You got to train for that. You got to change your whole body, your diet, your sleep. Probably everything, right? So it might not ever happen because in order to get that many people, I don't know how many people would be involved, because then you got to think if you got a film crew, like, or is everything are you just filmed the whole time? That, like, these are things I'm just now thinking about. We going to space.
Yeah.
How many cast members?
Yeah.
How many crew members? All the training for it. Camera guy, food.
Yeah, it's like, bro, just CG it, man. It's like
Yeah. Let's go to the studio.
Yeah.
That's supposedly where they did the moon landing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's probably like several million too, just to transport one person in space.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's ridiculous, kind of.
But I guess if Elon has the money to burn, if he wants to be like, yeah, fuck it, Billy, let's go.
And the
why not?
rockets, right? And he got the spaceships.
Yeah.
Custom spaceship.
Yeah.
Build your own mansion. You know, build your own mansion spaceship. What's up, Elon?
Exactly.
Hook me up. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'll go to space now. Heels is done.
Elon sponsored this podcast. Actually, maybe don't.
No, fuck that.
But so I guess kind of going into sort of like probably like the last topic of today. You mentioned, I think off air, that you were working on a sort of documentary about your life. Like, what can you tell us about that?
It's just so for a long time I always wanted to tell my story, and I felt like I had a story to tell, even when I wasn't anybody. And it was really just because of the hardship I had growing up and all the struggles as a youth, growing up in the conditions I grew up. And you don't really know, but it was drugs, alcohol, a lot of.
You said I don't really know.
A lot of. I'm not saying you don't know that stuff, but my background,
yeah.
Like I grew up in these really, really rough conditions, and everybody was super violent. Everybody is, drugs, killing, stealing, everything you can really imagine. And I can go on to really horror stories about it. But then at 11, I went into a boys' home, and I got adopted by my high school disciplinarian at 15. So, and all that was still difficult, like I never had a place to live. Like you guys lived in probably the same house most of your lives, or like you have your child. It was always a couple weeks here, a couple weeks. I never had a steady home. So I didn't know, I didn't have family. Even though I was related to people, like I told you earlier, I didn't have an education. I didn't have stability. I didn't have discipline. All those things had to be learned. And as growing up, when you already grew up, I tell everybody like this is imagine taking a wild lion from the jungle and putting them inside a house, a nice house, and saying, hey, don't mess nothing up. Well, he's a wild lion from the jungle. He's going to tear that whole house up. Yeah. And that's how I was. And I had to learn how to act, and I had to learn how to talk. Even though I had a good heart and I was a sweet kid, and I had morals, I wasn't educated. There was a lot of things I was lacking, and a lot of teachings I was lacking. It's growing up. It's amazing to be where I am today. It's amazing to have the opportunities that I have today. Like we just talked about my friends passing away who were way more smarter and talented. There's so many things. So I have a lot of stories to tell. And I want people the whole real point of the documentary is to see what I went through and really tell. It ain't about what I got now, because like that's much later in life. I want to tell what I went through and how I got to where I'm at. And I want people to know that no matter what you go through, if you have the ambition and you put your heart and your efforts into it, you don't have to be what you come from. You can literally be anything you want. And that's real. But it's going to take, a lot of work and a lot of effort, and probably the hardest fucking work of your life to be whatever you want to be, depending on what it is. If you want to be a bum, it's going to be hard, but it don't take much effort, but it is going to be hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so no matter what you want to do, it's going to be hard. So like I tell my boys all the time, I say, hey, life's hard either way. I'm choosing my hard. I'm either choosing my hard and being an idiot with no education and having nothing and living this rough life, or I'm going to work my ass off and, educate myself and put myself through a lot of struggle, a different struggle though, to be in better positions. And you have failures and all that stuff in between, but overall you're in a better position compared to the struggles over here. So I want to show that in the documentary. The whole point is to show that, and to show, like I said, being anything you want to be and not letting your past bring you down or where you come from determine who you are. Because my whole life I was just told I was going to be a fucking idiot. I was going to be a jailbird. I was going to be trash. I am trash. I'm going to be this. Nobody was like, yo, yeah, kid, you're going to do it. Nobody. And it was, but I knew I had to get away.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I feel like it's a similar thing because people are talking about this all now. You mentioned Sinners and Ryan Coogler specifically. People are noting how he grew up in the Bay. He grew up in, I think it was Oakland.
okay.
And people are noticing that all the work that you did in terms of like make like presenting yourself and like people in the eye talking to them, etc. I'm not saying he didn't do that, but people notice the way he talks in interviews is very much like he is not hiding where he came from.
Right.
That he talks with like that kind of dialect, and so it's kind of interesting. I think we're gonna see a lot more people with like the democratization of the medium as they make more movies and eventually get more recognition, that as I guess nepotic
Yeah.
as nepotic as the film industry can be, I think talent from nowhere still
See,
has a
Using
strong
big words. I went to public
yeah.
school, man.
I don't even know if that's a word. How nepotistic, that might be a better one.
Right.
Because a lot of times the film industry makes people from within. But I feel like there are a lot of people who are actually able to break in from outside.
That's entertainment in general too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we talked about, it's just become more accessible. Back in the day, you used to have a lot of talent. Now anybody can get involved. That doesn't mean that there's not people that come from different or unfortunate situations that aren't super freaking talented and could still do great jobs, right? But like we talked about, there's a school, there's a system. You go to college, you go through this, you go to acting school, you go, now I never thought a person like myself could just get in. I'll leave you with a quick story. Young Rock, season 1. I'm almost at least 15 years in the film business at this point. I've worked with everybody, worked on multiple projects, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, every big name you can imagine, killed by everybody. Worked with them, hung out with them, bullshit, you know what I mean, the whole 9 yards. Now, when I get casted on Young Rock and I get to Australia for the first time to go shoot, I don't know any of the guys I'm on set with. And the very first day when I walked in, I'm being a character, I'm being Steve Austin. I walk on set, and for the very first time in my life in entertainment, I felt like I didn't belong. And I went, oh, crap. What did I talk myself into now? And I really got like that. I never had that before. I never had that doubt. I never had to. But what it was I was in another country around, I knew nobody. I was unfamiliar with everybody from the production. And then a lot of people there were highly educated or highly achieved actors from like wherever they went to school or whatever else they came from. And here I am, some poor white trash kid from New Orleans, Louisiana, who barely had a high school education. And real quick, my buddy, he became one of my best friends. His name's Miles Burris. He played for the Raiders. He was a linebacker, but he played Triple H on Young Rock. He was in the locker room with me, and we got along. And I looked at him. I said, "Hey, man, I'm for the first time in my life, I'm nervous. I don't feel like I belong." And he looked at me and he said, "What are you talking about, man? It's all fucking fake anyway." And like just that little bit of but I had that, 1 minute of who I really was from what I came from to where I worked myself to. And it was almost like a bit of shock. I got shocked myself. And it took somebody, else to be like, "Nah, dog, you got like just a little bit of confidence." And then I snapped out and then we crushed it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we crushed it. Good. I'm always good under pressure. But that, the point of the story was I just, I felt that for a moment. I felt that moment of realism, and where I went back to the boy of who I was and who I grew up being, and I was shocked to be in that situation. And then you go, I'm here, I made it, and now it's time to show what I do. And then you do what you do, and everybody's like, oh shit. And then every moment past that, nobody else knew but me and Miles when I said that. But every moment past that, when I walked on set, the energy always picked up. Because the energy that I brought to set, everybody's like, either they called me Luke or Austin, you know, just the energy I brought as that character. When I got there, everybody was like, he's on, we got to be on. And that, you know, like I said, I had that moment of doubt, and originally where I was like, I didn't belong with these people. And then I went from that moment of doubt to like, oh shit, these people look to me to bring this energy. These people look to me to be me and do what I do. And then now I got my confidence back. And now I feel like, yeah, again, you know, God put me in this position for a reason. I'm here to be who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So on that note, Luke, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Really, really appreciate it. A lot of insightful conversation, a lot of good stuff mentioned, good stuff talked about. If anybody wants to find you, your work, any upcoming things you have planned, where can they do that?
They can check me out on all my social media at Luke Hawx 504, LUKEHAWX 504, and you can check out Wildcat Sports, WILDKAT. That's our Wildcat Wrestling in Louisiana. Well, we're actually worldwide. Got some banging shows, some of the best entertainment coming us out with some of the biggest wrestling superstars. So you also seeing Iron Claw, Heels, and Sinners, multiple other movies and television shows. So yeah, check us out, Wildcat Sports and Luke Hawx 504. And thank you guys for having me on, man. I really had it. Today was a great time.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, we'll link all your stuff in the description. So if you guys scroll down a little bit, you'll see all of his links down there. And if you want to listen to more Indie Film Insider with our last episode, I'm Owen Carr. Owen Carr, DP on Instagram. Jake, when can they find you?
You can find me at Jake Ross Bell on Instagram.
Awesome. And then if you want to listen to our last episode with Kyle Miller, a indie director, you can check that out right here.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we're done.
So much,
no, you're good.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Every story has 5 other stories with it.